to What One Thing, a Smart Meetings podcast that provides you with a shortcut to the top of the events world by asking successful people what made the difference in their careers and lives. I'm JT Long, Vice President and Content Director with Smart Meetings, and this conversation could be the start of a more productive chapter in your life. Keith Alper is an expert in marketing, branding, business strategy, and event production. He is the author of From Like to Love, and he's here to fire us up. Welcome, Keith.
Well, thank you, JT. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
It's going to be fun. I want to talk a little bit about how you became Keith Alper, right? So it sounds like you were a born entrepreneur starting your first company when you were 17. Tell me, did you bring a briefcase to kindergarten? What was little Keith Alper like?
Well, actually, little Keith Alper used to do, like a lot of kids, shows in their parents' basement. So when I was 6 and 7, I would ask my parents for Hanukkah for light brights and extension cords, not what most kids ask them, so I could do shows in their basement. So most people are not born knowing what they wanted to do, and I've always wanted to entertain, hospitality shows since I'm a little kid, and now I'm just a big kid. So the light bulbs got bigger, and the speakers got bigger, and the audiences got bigger, but really started my first business when I was about 17 with my then partner, Steve, and we worked at Six Flags together. That's how we met each other, in the shows department. Wow. And I was actually 15 because that's when we started working together. I wasn't really legal to work at Six Flags at 15, but I moved the date over because I wanted to work in the shows at Six Flags.
You moved the date. Oh, my goodness. That is dedication, I tell you. Well, we've actually talked to a number of people who started in the whole Disney training machine, right, and brought that magic out to the rest of the industry. What was it like learning the business at Six Flags, at an amusement park? And would you say that the rest of your industry has been like a big amusement park? What did you learn from that?
Well, without getting too philosophical, Disney was always number one, but this was back in 1978. They weren't as big as they had. They didn't have, all this stuff. The early Six Flags was owned by a man and his company, and his idea was, how do you have great regional experiences at a cost and quality equal to Disney, but not, it's like a 1 hour drive or a 2 hour drive, and you didn't have to save up for a year. But he came up with the exact same things that was drilled into our head as kids, of somebody saved up a long time to spend their day at our theme park. And we're there to provide happiness and entertainment and to kind of make everything go away. And when that's drilled into your head at 15 years old, and they did it then, you couldn't have a beard, you couldn't have sideburns, we wore uniforms. If you walked by trash, you picked it up. And, when I started, my first experience was a stagehand at the Palace Theater, which was the closest thing in St. Louis to Broadway, they did 10 shows a day. A morning show and a night show in the big Broadway theater. And so that's really where you learn how to work hard, work with a cast. At that time, we had a 17-person union orchestra. We had a day orchestra, a night orchestra. And so to your question, it's early training of how to work with people, but also to realize that we're really there to help tell stories and transform people's days, their kids, and from that, then we started producing major concerts, which actually Disney didn't do. So now you have all these Live Nation and Sheds. There weren't those before. So we would do 25 to 30 concerts a year. And when you're 15 working with Dolly Parton or New Kids on the Block or these things, we learned a lot. And I do think if it's in Disney or whatever, if you got a chance to start young and do this, not only did it get in your blood, but when you walked out every day, you saw how many happy people there were. So I don't work in insurance, and unfortunately, I don't work as a nurse or a doctor. And to see people happy, that's the business. And so we do that in the meetings and events business, but we might do it to make their jobs better or to engage their employees or to engage their customers. But there's a lot more to it. Like I always say, at the end of the day, if my clients don't make money on me, then we didn't do our job. That means engaging employees, engaging customers. It's not just about tablecloths and spotlights. We learned all that at Six Flags, and we learned the work ethic at Six Flags. By the way, Six Flags, I think, has been sold 6 times since I worked there. So over the years and just all these different things. So it's not the park that it used to be. They don't have the shows. But the day I graduated college, I got to be in charge of the entertainment department, 400 employees. And so that's where I bit the bug. And guess what? I wake up today still just like that excited kid in what we do.
I love that. I love that. And I also think the way you put it, you got the bug bitten, right? Is that service mentality gets ingrained in us. And the big joke, of course, is that you know that you are in the hospitality business when you are in an elevator full of hospitality people and everyone's saying, you go first, right? And
right, exactly.
Walk by a piece of trash without picking it up. It's just natural.
It's natural. And by the way, it's also a curse because we work for clients that own big hotels and, everything is a show. Politics is a show, right? And so if everything's a show, it's got to be clean. It's got to be fresh. And as they teach you, even if you're working at a hotel or a meeting planner, it might be somebody's first time. It might be your 100th day at work, but it's this guest's first time at our hotel, at our meeting, at our company. And that's hard to do every day. But if you love what you do, I like to say, and a lot of people at our company, you got to work for money to pay the bills. But if you really love what you do, I should be paying you. And when you have people like that, they should be paying you to work there. And I wrote that book that you talked about, From Like to Love, of how do you take people from liking where they work to loving where they work? Or how do you take people from liking staying in a hotel when they leave and they said, I loved my experience because Betty helped me do this, or because they put some chocolates on my bed or whatever. So I think we're all in the hospitality industry, even if we work hard at a big company.
And I think that's so important because the difference between like and love is often a teeny tiny little thing, a smile, knowing your name. Those little things make so much of a difference.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up, JT, because that is the difference. And by the way, that is what made Disney Disney. Disney did all these the hidden Mickeys, the sewers that are Mickeys. So the 3-year-old could point it out, or the dad could point out, look at the electrical towers, they have Mickey ears. And that means they're storytellers. They want to have fun. And it's all those little details. And if you look at some of the biggest companies in the world, it's the little details that make it, but it meant that they care. And I remember hearing a speaker, and I just love it, and I can't remember the speaker. And by the way, I'm so proud that our largest client is Southwest Airlines, who I think they're one of the friendliest, most engaging airlines. And, they're reshuffling the deck a little bit. But somebody once said, if you ever go on an airplane and you put the little tray down and you see a coffee stain there, that means you could see what's happening to the engine, right? So we always try to do the behind the scenes stuff that nobody sees, because then you do the front of house stuff. So when we're at a big hotel about to do a meeting, even if we have nothing to do with the food and beverage of the hotel, we own the room. If there's trash in the room, we clean it. If the restrooms outside are not done, we call somebody. It's the total experience. And some people just don't get it, not my gig. And here's the deal. If a client's spending a lot of money and having this experience that all their people fly, it's from the minute they get off the plane to the minute they get back on the plane. It really is. And you're asking people to travel, to be away from their family. By the way, is travel easy anymore? No. Right? Is it fun? Sometimes. I'm on my way to Bangkok on Saturday for 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to it the first time, but it's a journey, right? It's a journey. So, okay, back to your questions. I'm sorry for going long.
No, totally agree. Door to door, we need to own that experience, and every little thing we can do to make it feel personalized and comfortable and caring makes all the difference. So, you mentioned some of your clients. You work with Fortune 500 companies. You work with nonprofits. How do they operate differently than smaller companies?
As clients or as operators?
Great question. I would say, what do we learn from how they do business? I mean, in the end, we all put our pants on or our skirt on one leg at a time, right? If I am a small company that wants to put on an event that wows, is it that different, or is it just a scaled down budget?
We work with small companies and big companies. So big companies like L'Oreal and Ulta Beauty and Southwest Airlines and Carnival Cruise Line. These are our favorite companies in the world. And by the way, we only work with clients that we want to work with. Okay, so we won't work with a company if they're not great to their employees, if they're not great to their customers, or they're not great to us. So we see it as a two-way street, just like a marriage or relationship. We sailed that boat a while ago that we're not going to work for somebody. Now, here's the deal. When you're at the Super Bowl, meaning when you're working with these giant clients, it always comes down to 3 to 5 people. I don't care if it's a big company or small company, right? And so we do have access. We do a great job in meeting and working with the C-suite. It might be the executive vice chairman or the CEO, but we're really dealing day to day with the meeting owners, right? It might be the meeting sponsor or the head of meetings or the meeting planner. And you know what our number one job is for them? The first thing is to make their job easier. It's to make their job easier. When you work at a big company, you got a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of people breathing down your neck, and it's very competitive. And as you see right now, what's happening in corporate America, people are laying off people at 10,000 a time or 5,000 a time. So when you're at a big company, people go, oh my God, am I creating value here? And what we try to do is create value for the company of that, again, that process of like, if I'm not creating value for them, they shouldn't use us, okay? But going back to your question, big companies tend to depend on us more for what we do best and leave the small stuff to others. And so what happens is we have a meeting and said, okay, our meeting is going to have our top employees here that are responsible for $40 billion in revenue. And why are we having that meeting? Okay, and so it goes up to the C-suite. Does the room need to be nice? Sure. Do we need to have good projection and some wow and some fabulous? Yes. But there also needs to be a business component. And the people that are really ingrained with their leadership are saying, how can I bring value that brings bottom line value to our company? Either our customers, our suppliers, our partners, or employees. A lot of smaller companies, they want to be producers too. And so we'll say, hey, you can be producer too, but how can we help you more? And as I always like to say, and guess what? Like you can't tell me the last 3 restaurants what the carpeting looked like. I've asked people, they've never known. You want quality service, quality food, a good atmosphere, and an overall experience. Now, they need to have nice carpeting because you would notice really bad carpeting. So we try to get clients to think actually much more strategic and what are we trying to deliver? And my favorite thing that happens all the time is when our clients get promoted. And one of my favorite clients is Keisha, who is the VP of stores at Ulta Beauty. And about 4 weeks ago, she was promoted to the CEO of the whole company. We had an opportunity to work on meetings with Keisha when she owned the store meetings all the way up, and we work really hard, and they work really hard, and that was through COVID and how we do those meetings during COVID. But that's why we work really hard for that. And so at the end of the day, I think it's always trying to be in sync with the client on what their desired outcome is for the meeting and what their desired working relationship is. And hey, we're going to do this in-house. We're going to do this out-of-house. Or I really need help. Our little secret sauce is you can ask us something most of the time. And a lot of times we can do something for non-additional cost because it's already in our back pocket or we just did it or we know somebody. So that's where we try to add value. I say this in a strategic way and I knock on wood. Many of our clients have been 10 and 15-year clients. So they see us as partners and we try to bring value. So we're about the wow, but the wow plus, because wow might not increase sales, right? Or it might not increase and have employee engagement. So it all comes down to how do you work with your client and how do we become how do we become team members and how do we support them and when they have good days at work or bad days and when we have good days and stuff like that. So it was a long-winded answer, but everybody's a little bit different. As you know, every client's different. Every need is different. By the way, we had a meeting that we were doing for Raytheon. Now I can say this 10 years later. We were doing their senior leadership meeting for 100 people. Their trucks were driving to wherever we were driving. We got a call saying the meeting's canceled in 2 days. We're like, what? Our CEO was fired by the board. Our meeting's canceled. So you just pull the trucks back and we work on that and all those things. So you got to be, and by the way, everybody who survived COVID, you have to be on your feet these days even more.
Absolutely. And pointing out that understanding the reason for the meeting Regardless of the size, we've talked about this quite a bit, particularly in a world where costs are going up so much. If you start with what is the ultimate goal, everything that you are trying to decide whether to add on to that event, if you can say, will this help us reach our goal or not, it helps you prioritize what goes into the budget and what doesn't, right?
It's absolutely right. And also, there's a few different ways to skin it, because you said, hey, here's our goal. Here's our budget. Now, if we got another sponsor and if we sold more tickets, then we're going to add that layer on to put us over the top. Or, hey, we have no money for speakers. What are we going to do? And we said, bring in your best customers. Let's make a panel. They're like, we never thought of that. And now people can see it. Now you have a real customer sitting in front of everybody. Carnival Cruise Line did that. They brought some of their best cruisers that would cruise 20 and 30 times a year or something, and we put them up on stage. They flew them in. We didn't pay for a speaker, and it was so great to see senior leadership hearing from customers.
Okay, so you mentioned the dreaded C word, right? And just full confession, I many times wrote stories that said the future is hybrid during COVID, and now we've come out and it looks a little bit different, but you put on both live and virtual events. How has the event industry changed over the time you've been a producer, and what's next?
Well, I'm going to make some predictions, and because I'm older than most, although I feel 18, when you've been through enough things, like enough ups and downs, there's a few learnings here. So first of all, we were doing a giant meeting for the biggest CEOs organization in the world called the Young Presidents Organization, YPO. And we were producing their global meeting. I forget where we were, but we were somewhere. And one of the members said to the CEO in 2015, hey, I know, I'm going to forget his name. But he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. I'm going to forget his name. He was arrested for like espionage or something like that. You'll know the guy's name. He's a big guy, but I can't remember his name because I'm a senior. But he's never spoken to a group. And they're like, oh my God, how would we get him? And they said, well, he's in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, but we can hire CNN and we can just put him up on the satellite. This is one day's notice. And it broke the walls because former President George Bush would not speak if this guy were going to be on the virtual stage. This is all pre-COVID. And what we learned there, so fast forward in 2015, we started a new company called GenieCast, and this was all pre-COVID. And what our hypothesis was nobody was bringing in virtual speakers in the meeting room, but we figured, wait, how do I help our small clients get Steve Wozniak, who was $150,000, that I was able to book for $30,000 virtual. This is all 2015, 16, 17. So our GenieCast was exploding. And what we did is we went out to a lot of talent and said, hey, guess what? We've created a new revenue stream for you. You can do it from your kit. And everybody's like, so we had to convince meeting planners to say, I can get you almost any speaker at a much lower cost, but they're going to be two-way. And that worked. And then COVID happened. And now what everybody knows what happened with COVID is we were ready for that. But I will tell you, virtual experiences have almost crashed, right? All the big Hopin and all these places are not around. There are a few of us left. But I will tell you, our virtual business, which we rolled into one of our other companies, is asterisks on a B. And when I say that, we now learned during COVID, humankind, that we need each other. We need to go to lunch with each other. You know, JT, if I were with you, we'd have wine after or whatever. And so what I was going to tell you, the future with AI and all this tech is more one-on-one, more meetings, more connections, more people. And we saw that in the concert industry, what happened after COVID, in the sports industry. And so human connection can never be replaced. And as we're going to see that in AI, do you want an AI speaker or do you want this? Now, I still love virtual because we have a lot of clients that their people are all over the country. So we do a quarterly GenieCast with a big hospital system. It's the only way they can get all their 1,000 top leaders together. And they said, we don't want hospital content. We want content to help our 1,000 leaders be better leaders. And since we're never going to all be in a ballroom, we're willing to spend a good fee on world-class speakers. Or we have a giant CEO group that we just had Serena Williams. Now, that was expensive, but it was a big deal for all their members to be able to talk to Serena. So our whole idea was this virtual that we're doing is like when my grandpa used to yell at the wrestling matches when he was old, he would yell at the TV, they couldn't talk back. But now you have the opportunity to talk to Steve Wozniak or a former president or governor. So going back to the question, virtual took a big hit. It also made us, I don't know if you know the exact number, you might know because you're in the data business, is we've heard about 50% of people left the meetings industry. So we know producers, technical people, hotel people, we partner with travel companies, there are people, everybody left. They're like, we've been through 9/11, right? We've been through the recession. Now I'm out of here. I'm going to work for an insurance company. This is a very intoxicating industry to leave if you love it. So now people are back. But what we learn every day, and it's what we put is the recipe of everything, like you might put in your favorite chocolate chip recipe. It's human to human contact. And it's getting personal. That means the CEO tells a personal story. It means we're doing very different things in breakouts. And that's where the success is. So actually, you remember the movie Back to the Future? We're kind of going back to the future. We'll have technology. By the way, we're implementing AI wherever we can to help our clients save money and do really cool things. But we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Do you remember? I mean, you remember there was there was not Illustrator and all these tech things. People used to draw things. Then we just got better. So I'm always a techie and always we're on the forefront, but also we learned a big lesson during COVID. You can't replace people, and AI is not going to replace people in a lot of things because we need human to human.
Human intelligence is the gold standard still.
We're pushing a thing with our clients and stuff where our little acronym is RI plus AI. That means real intelligence plus AI. When you drive those, yeah. So, your assistant's going to be able to maybe help draft your first speech because we're going to put in the things and it does it and then you make it better. So you might not hire the speechwriter, but then you said, but I need a speechwriter that really understands empathy of something, and AI doesn't understand empathy right now. Like the AI doesn't understand certain things, and maybe it might be hard to make a robot cry one day. But I know I can make each of you cry right now if I told you a story. I'm not going to do that, but I know I can make you cry. I do that on a regular basis because I just pour my heart out. So, okay, next question. I'll shut up for a little bit.
Yeah. But we love that storytelling. So you mentioned AI is going to disrupt things, but also we're just in the midst of so much uncertainty, which makes it really hard for a planner that's trying to sign a contract 1 or 5 years out, right? Like, where do you see events going in a world that we don't know, what our budgets are going to be like in 1 or 3 or 5 years?
Yeah. There's not one CEO or executive leader at an organization, nonprofit, for-profit, that a year after COVID would say, my business is the same. Everything changed, right? Everything changed. We're in the world of a lot of change right now politically. We're in a lot of change now, and now we're in this technological revolution that everybody says it's beating the steam locomotive, it's beating electricity, and it's going to beat the internet is AI. And what I love about it is I'm a geek, so I read a lot and I watch a lot and I listen to a lot of podcasts because our clients expect us to sometimes do the research for them. And so when we propose something, we're like, here, this works. And so I will tell all the listeners out here, do not fight AI because it's going to be your friend. And if you fight it and don't understand, I tell people right now, I coach a lot of young people, like, what do you think I should go into? I said, I think you should study AI right now. But the good thing is you don't have to learn it. You don't have to be a programmer. Just get on it. Just start using it. Just start using Claude. And the other thing is, like, the 10 big companies are beating each other up each week, making it better and better and better. And what I'm saying is what they're doing now used to take a tech company 5 or 10 years. They're doing in a week, right? And then this Chinese company came out, DeepSeek, and it beat everybody. And NVIDIA lost $1 trillion in stock. So you can get overwhelmed very simply, right? And so just breathe and live. But I would tell anybody here that works for somebody, or if you're a leader or anybody, you have to get on AI. Don't be afraid of it because it's not going to bite you. If there's a thing called Grok, and by the way, Elon Musk doesn't own Grok. They contract with Grok, but Grok is a new one. But also Grok lets you do artwork. So like before, I would go to one of my team members and say, hey, I'm thinking of an idea. Let's have one of our artists work on it. I'd get it back a week because we're busy. And then maybe we'd have to go and get an artist, and I'd call 2,500. What I do is put in my good input, and in 30 seconds, I get about 90% of what I'm looking for. And that means if I have an idea for a client right now, I don't have to spend thousands or spend weeks. We can talk about something in real time. So AI is something that everybody's going to be affected by. If you work in accounting, it might affect it. If you work in writing, it might affect it. But again, you need that personalization because you got to put this and you got to curate it. So really think of AI as your partner, just like I think Zoom is my partner, just like I think as Word is my partner and Microsoft Outlook is my partner. But in the meetings business and events business, what happens at a company today, the meeting planner might get a call in an hour and I need to change this tomorrow. Nobody, every client goes, well, you might not like us because it's last minute changes. Said, I've never seen a client that doesn't make last minute changes. We've gotten good about that. So don't feel free to upset us because we know something might happen in your company and your CEO might need to say something on stage in a minute. So flexibility. And so AI is a great tool. And if anybody thinks of, but do not fight it because it will bite you,
We will all be great prop masters. Well, yeah. we brought you here because we want to know what one thing made all the difference in your career and life, and what can our community of smart meeting professionals learn from that and apply to their lives.
I'm a rule breaker as an entrepreneur.
Ooh.
I'm going to break the rule and give you 3 things. Because I like things always go well in 3s. Because I don't know if that's one thing. Like if you even look at your life, I think there's little moments you could track your life and go, oh, that one, like Six Flags changed my life, right? Something changed my life. So the one thing is, first of all, great mentors up and down. So if you work at a company, if you're in the mid-level, find somebody high up to be your mentor. Nobody says no. Everybody likes to give back. So great mentors, learning. Okay. And that means reading, observing, reading your stuff, listening to podcasts. Now it can be overwhelming. So decide what you want to learn this week, what you want to learn next week. And guess what? You can do it in 5 minutes. You can search anything. And here's another little feature just on that. TikTok's not just for dancing anymore. It's the #1 media platform in the world, and everybody's on it. Look up the subject, and you will see 500 TikToks of whatever you want to see. It's beating search. So learn, mentors, and live each day, because we are not in control of COVID. We're not in control of politics. We're not in control of our business. And so as a planner, I've planned out my whole life. Everything changes. And so I had to learn, take a breath, live each day, go to bed, and things will work themselves out or whatever. And it took me time to kind of relax for 24 hours, because, right, things go up and down. People make changes. A client cancels something. I'm like, take a deep breath. Let's get through this. And so those were the 3 things. I'm sorry I broke the rule.
That's okay. We know you're a rule breaker from way back. Well, let's all just take a deep breath together right now. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and for being such an important part of this dynamic meetings community.
Well, thank you, JT, and thank you for everybody, what everybody does, because everybody's here to support something, right? We are givers and we're hospitality providers, and not everybody gets to do that. So thank everybody listening today. I'm available on all the social media, and I always welcome calls or emails or text or whatever. I don't like to hide. So, but thank you for what you guys do, and it was great being here. Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Have a brilliant day. Smart Meetings, What One Thing was produced by Bright Business Media. Visit smartmeetings.com to subscribe to your daily dose of inspiration.